roles at an air show. One we're honored to have is to help facilitate the United States Congressional Delegation and host this morning the Senate press conference. U.S. aerospace and defense is now a $1 trillion a year revenue industry. Exports are up 25% year over year, over 2 million employees across all these states, all 50 states. And we couldn't do that without strong government partnership and support, particularly from the people that are here today that are just the strongest, most steadfast supporters of U.S. aerospace and defense, which is why we are by far the global leader. So I'm gonna, not wasting more time, get this started by turning it over to the CODEL head, Senator Moran and Senator Shaheen, who will have some opening comments, and then we'll field your questions. Thank you all for being here. I will now exit.
Eric, thank you, and thanks to AIA for hosting us. This is a multiple-year excursion for us each year. The air show has become a significant component of our work. In the Commerce Committee and Appropriations, we represent, and Armed Services, we represent a wide array, and as you can see, in a very bipartisan way, we are here. There are 5 Republican senators here, 4 Democratic senators here, and we come with the opportunity to learn and to promote and to make certain that the industry that is so important to all of our states, but to our country, both from an economic point of view and from a national security point of view, is supported by members of the United States Senate in our work in Congress and our efforts back in our home states. And this is I should foretell you that the most quotable senator hasn't arrived yet. Senator Kennedy will come in the door screaming something that will be reportable by you shortly. And I'm pleased to always associate myself with Senator Shaheen. This is her because of the end of her term and time in the United States Senate. This may be her, at least her last air show as a United States Senator, and she has been a strong advocate for this industry, for national security, and for the well-being, peace around the globe, and our relationships with countries here in Europe and abroad, and further abroad. And so let me turn this over to Senator Shaheen for her comments, and we'd be glad to take your questions. I can't get quite out of the way.
That's a good thing that there are so many of us up here that we can't get out of each other's way. But thank you, Jerry. Let me underline everything that Senator Moran said about the importance of the industry and the importance of having this bipartisan congressional delegation here to support not just Farnborough, but the whole aerospace industry. Let me also introduce everyone here. I'm sure that those of you in the audience know who everyone is, but Katie Britt from Alabama, Deb Fisher from Nebraska, Catherine Cortez Masto from Nevada, Alex Padilla from California, of course you know Jerry Moran from Kansas, Jackie Rosen from Nevada, and John Bozeman from Arkansas, and we are missing John Kennedy from Louisiana. But as you can see, we represent a broad swath of the United States where aerospace is significant in all of our states. Eric talked about the 25% increase in aerospace growth over the last year, $170 billion in exports. In my state of New Hampshire, 25% of our exports are aerospace alone. So this is important not just to our economic security, but to our national security. And what Farnborough does, and I think, correct me if I'm wrong, Eric, but I think this is the biggest presence ever for the United States at Farnborough, which is really important. And as we think about, we were all in Paris last year for the air show, and what we heard there was the increased presence from China. So the fact that we have such a large presence is important not just to America's industry, but also to the partnerships that we need to have around the world to not only improve our economic security, but our national security. So thank you all for being here. It's going to be a great air show. The weather's perfect. We appreciate the United Kingdom's having such great weather for us, getting rid of all of the heat wave, and giving us a place to cool off after Washington. So thank you all.
Gene, thank you for being brief. I think every senator who hopes to be quoted wants to get this accomplished before Senator Kennedy comes to me. So we'd be glad to respond. And you can direct your question to someone, or we'll figure out who the best person is to answer. Well, thank you all very much.
Write only positive things.
Yes, ma'am.
Hi, Valerie Insina with Breaking Defense. I would like to ask about some news that just hit within the last couple of hours. President Trump said that the Qatari Air Force One plane, the VC-25 bridge aircraft, is going to be taken out of service in a little bit to do some modifications on it. I was wondering, for anyone, especially those on the Appropriations and Armed Services Committee, does that concern you? Is that a signal that maybe the security measures that were put in place on the aircraft weren't quite robust enough? And, for those that have, a look, like, that are on those two committees, would you like to see some sort of a hearing or a classified briefing to learn more about what's going on here?
Well, we knew there were issues around security with the plane. We've known that from the very beginning. Obviously, there was an effort to address that. I think in the past, called for a hearing to make sure that this is a plane that's safe, that provides protection for our president. And I would hope that we would continue to move in that direction so that the public is reassured that the protection is going to be there.
I would say if there's a piece of good news here is that if there was an examination and the problem apparently was determined to exist, the good news is that it's apparently going to be addressed. And I think it's important for all of us to determine what that problem is and to be supportive of corrective measures to make sure that is its capabilities as an aircraft, but it's also its security and protecting the president and making certain that information is classified and safe is a high priority, should be for all of us, and I'm quite certain it is. So the idea that they're taking it out of service is actually a positive in my mind because it means somebody is paying attention to make sure we get it right. Sir? Sir? Yes.
Jack Detch from Politico. We saw the administration expand strikes in Iran this weekend. We also see the administration very clearly pushing, as it seems like the CODEL is, for Europeans to buy more American, even though there's slowdowns in orders. What's the message coming from you and this congressional delegation here in Farnborough to allies who are worried their orders aren't going to come in time? Can they still reliably buy American, just given the backlog that we're seeing?
Well, first of all, and I'll turn it over to others. First of all, I would say that part of my mission in being here, we visit with lots of defense contractors. We've done so in the last couple of days, and we'll do more today. And our message is encouragement to them to increase their capabilities, to send the message that the demand signal is for real. We as appropriators, we as members of the United States Senate, Armed Services Committee, those who are working to see NDAA get passed, we are doing things in Congress that suggest that the demand is only going to grow. And so a lot of encouragement to defense contractors to be prepared and to prepare quickly for that demand signal. And this also gives us an opportunity to express our willingness to do so and to help, in my view, defend European interests as we protect American interests around the globe. So the idea that America is still open for business, still interested in relationships, and making certain that those who want to be allied with us know that we're going to do everything we can to provide a mutual defense for their nation and ours as well. But let me turn to Gina.
I was at the NATO summit last week, and there was a full day devoted to the defense industrial base of NATO countries and how do we better work on co-production, how do we better collaborate? Because one of the things we've learned from the war in Ukraine is that our industrial base is not what we had hoped it would be. And as we're looking at multiple conflicts around the world, we've got to do better. Our defense is looking at this very strongly. That's why there are a whole lot of changes being made to procurement with how we in the United States procure equipment and weapons in the security sector. But it's something that we've all got to partner on and cooperate with, and our allies are really critical in this effort. And we have heard in our meetings in the United Kingdom on Friday that an interest in working together to address this. I don't know if anybody else wants to.
So, and just to put a finer point on it, is the focus is really just co-production? I mean, capitalize, by buying American specifically. I'm just curious how you strike that balance, because the administration's been very clear that, on that message.
Look, I think that's happening now. That, again, as I said, was part of the focus of the NATO summit, was figuring out how we work together. Obviously, we want people to buy American products because we think they're the best. But there are places that we need to work together in order to address the need that we have and the backlog. And so finding for ways to partner, and you're gonna hear from virtually, certainly the biggest companies, but most of the companies who are here, that they work with countries around the world. They have operations in countries all over Europe, in places around the world. And that's how they're getting the work done. And we've got to look at how we can be more efficient to do that.
Yes, sir.
Brian Epstein with Aviation Week. Senator, you mentioned the NDAA, which has typically been a bipartisan highlight across Congress, but this year there's been a lot of more opposition, it seems, bubbling up. Can you give some prospects on where you see it going now, the House is taking it up? And one of the more controversial provisions in that is targeting stock buybacks and dividends. A lot of businesses have come out against that provision, including AIA. Can you see an changing outlook on that?
Let me turn to Senator Fisher, our NDAA expert.
We've got three of us here,
All right,
Senator
thank you.
Shaheen and Senator Rosen as well. I want to thank them for their support. I want to thank Senator Shaheen and Senator Rosen for their support on the NDAA. As usual, we worked in committee, recognizing the needs that we have, different viewpoints, and came up, I think, with a really good product. And we're going to continue to push that on the floor as well. As we move forward on it, obviously there's going to be compromises that are made. I know we're going to have, if we can get to it on the floor, we're going to have a robust discussion with amendments again. If we are unable to move it forward on the floor, we will conference with the House and have a product. We have to pass an NDAA. It's the one bill that we get done every year, and that's the goal we're going to have again this year.
Yes, sir.
Mark Lee, I'm a very small aerospace supplier, but I would say the one thing that the industry would tell you is please pass the NDAA. The continuing resolutions are probably the worst problem the industry faces. We'd appreciate bipartisan support of that.
We're glad we have, I'll turn to Katie, we're glad we have a bipartisan delegation. Aviation aerospace is important to every state in the country. Every member of Congress, regardless of party, ought to care about this, and I think we do. We need to make sure that the partisanship of the moment leading into a 2026 election is minimized, and NDAA needs, obviously, as you say, to be addressed and passed. But a continuing resolution is one of the most damaging things that we can do to this industry and do to our national security. A continuation of CRs, one after another, but even one delays our opportunity to defend our nation. And I'm not going to preach to my colleagues, but I'm going to say that we all want to get that done, and we ought to be working together. And one of the missions when we return home is to encourage our colleagues to find that path forward. Okay.
Yeah, I mean, Jerry just nailed it, but it goes to everyone's question here. And I'd say the only thing worse than a CR would be an actual shutdown. And I think when we're looking at the needs across the globe, when we're looking at the needs to make sure that our warfighter is the best trained, equipped, and ready across the planet, that is gonna take collaboration. That's gonna take us working together to figure out a pathway forward. I believe that the Senate can lead in that way, and make sure that we're taking the steps necessary to not only do what we have to do today, but prepare for what tomorrow may bring. But you're exactly right, and those conversations are being had right now. They're being had in a very meaningful way, and I'm hopeful that they will continue, and the result will be putting America in a position of strength.
Senator Dave Shermanson for Reuters. The administration has opted for now to keep aerospace trade tariff-free, but has not ruled out the possibility in 6 months it could impose new tariffs. Are you concerned what that impact will be on Boeing and Airbus and all the suppliers on both sides of the?
I'm an appropriator for USTR and for the Department of Commerce. We've encouraged both the Secretary and the Ambassador to realize the value of the 1979 agreement on zero tariffs. It has benefited this industry in huge ways. And to date, the trade agreements that have been negotiated and the ones that I know about that are being negotiated has recognized that agreement and left it in place without being disturbed. I will continue to make that case to our trade representatives. But you ought to just look at where we are doing well in trade and in exports and opportunities for economic growth. It is aviation and aerospace, and that is a significant component of why that works. I also would encourage the administration and Congress to be supportive of USMCA. It may very well need some modest changes or alterations, but the basic premise of a relationship between Mexico, the United States, and Canada is another important component of trade. And we talk about meeting the needs of the supply chain. That supply chain between these three countries is a significant component of being able to do that.
And there is bipartisan support for that.
It's Carrie Lynch, I'm with Aviation International News. The administration and Secretary of Transportation has made a strong push for $2 billion to pay for air traffic modernization. Congress has already given $12.5 billion towards that. What are the prospects of bringing up some of these additional funds to take the next step that they really want?
This is a hugely important issue, and I'll step aside. I don't want to dominate the conversation. These people are experts beside me. But I would say this, I didn't want to let this question go by. The flight that originated, that crashed in the helicopter, originates from Kansas, came from Wichita, and it's a personal and state issue for us. And I would compliment the administration on their response, Secretary Duffy in particular. I think this is for the first time in a long time, maybe the first time since I've been in the United States Senate, that there is a concerted effort to finally improve and increase the safety of our air traffic control system. A lot of components of that, but the $31.5 billion is a huge necessity. And I've been looking for opportunities to find maybe the next tranche that's expected to be about $10 billion. One would expect that would be done as the first one was done in reconciliation. I'm not certain there's going to be a reconciliation bill that passes the House and the Senate, and we'll look for opportunities. The Senate Appropriations Committee is meeting on Tuesday afternoon, tomorrow afternoon. We will be there for that hearing. It's a hearing on the supplemental, and that seems another opportunity. There was no inclusion of additional dollars in the administration's request in that supplemental for this purpose. But if it's going to get done, this would be one of the places that this or reconciliation, which you would expect us to have any success. Be glad to take that to somebody else.
Well, I want to say, I sit on both the Commerce Committee and Armed Services, and we understand that the stressors on our airports have increased exponentially. So our air traffic controllers are dealing with new stressors and challenges, and also with technology and advancements, we also have new opportunities. So we must continue to invest and modernize, bring everything up. It's for everyone's safety and security, and whatever that takes to do that, in whatever order we need to, it's incumbent upon us for both commercial and places like Nellis Air Force Base, which is only a few miles away from our Harry Reid International Airport. We share that airspace for training and other kinds of things. So it is really important that we address the challenges, the stressors, and meet the moment.
But look, what's implicit in both of those comments from Senators Moran and Rosen is not just the funding that we need for the FAA. It's also about looking at the rules. We cannot be expecting air traffic controllers to work 6 days a week for months at a time on the schedule that they're working and not have challenges. So we better look not just at the funding, but we need to look at the rules that govern the workforce.
Hi, Thomas Savellers, Defense One. I have a question about Golden Dome. So much of Golden Dome is banking on reconciliation that's not looking as certain now? I mean, what is the likelihood and confidence of getting, Golden Dome either put into the baseline budget? This is something that appropriations might rework, but, just any comments you have on how that's looking, because 17.5 billion is banking on reconciliation.
I chair the subcommittee on strategic forces, so we do missile defense, which is the Golden Dome, the layered protection we're trying to get. And I like to remind people that in the NDAA in FY24, the committee put that in. Then when the administration came in, the president named it Golden Dome. But that came from within the Senate Armed Services Committee, that we, through our briefings, classified briefings, understood the need for that layered defense. I'm concerned it's in reconciliation. It's something that we need to move ahead on. The subcommittee, which Senator Rosen is on that subcommittee with me, we have a number of briefings on it. Senator King and I think we had 9 briefings this year, the two of us, besides the subcommittee, having briefings on it. It's needed, so I'm worried it's in reconciliation because I don't know if that's going to happen or not. I would add to Senator Moran's comments about how we move forward. We need to move forward through appropriations bills. I'm on Armed Services, Approps, and Commerce. We need to move forward on our appropriations bills, and there's a number of us who are on Appropriations Committee here. Congress has to take back its responsibility of funding government, making the decisions on how we use taxpayer money, and we need to get it done.
Yeah, and let me address that because I agree with Deb. I think many of us realize our role here as appropriators. And so we've got to get back to a time when we're focused together in a bipartisan way to get this done for all of the questions that you're asking. And it's not just the appropriations. I sit on Senate Finance. It is trade. It is the tariffs. We see it, and I want you to know in a bipartisan way, we're concerned about some of the tariffs impacting this industry. And so we have the trade ambassador before us next week. These are questions we will be talking to him about as well in a bipartisan way. So I hope the takeaway from us being here and what you're hearing is that there is work in a bipartisan way in the Senate that we care about this industry, our focuses, and how we address and position our country in America in the future in our defense and our national security. That's why we are here. That's why this is so important for us to be engaged at all levels.
Senator Kennedy wants to respond, and then we'll take 1 or 2 more questions. Senator Kennedy?
We're giving him the mic.
Look, I know all these folks well. I love them like a taco,
Taco?
but I see the world as it is, not the way I want it to be. And you see what we see. We've got the midterm elections coming, and I don't know what's going to happen on any of this stuff right now. Both the House and the Senate. They're disorganized. If a less charitable perspective would be that both chambers kind of look like the happy hour at an airport Chili's. There's just a lot of confusion, and I think we'll get the NDAA done. I hope we'll have a CR to continue the budget. But after that, I really don't know. The president's very high on doing the daylight savings time bill. I can tell you that. He's obviously high on doing the Save America Act. We've got to do something with FISA.
Russia sanctions?
Russia sanctions. We've got the votes right now on the Russia sanctions bill. And where I come from, when you got the votes, you go.
That's right.
And frankly, if I were king for a day, don't aspire to be, I'm labor, not management. I'd put that damn bill on the floor next week and go. I wouldn't even wait.
That's a great note to end on.
And
Thanks
so
all.
That's a good summary.
Peace out.
Thanks, everyone.